Trenton makes, the world takes. It's a slogan known around the world, and these days, it's come to have a whole new meaning as the capital city's art scene thrives. Its roots trace back to Trenton's history as a center of industry and craft. Trenton was home to an enormous pottery industry for 100 years, beginning in the mid-19th century. The pieces made then are still being collected. You can see them at the State Museum and at Trenton's Ellerslie Museum. Ellerslie is in Cadwalader Park, 100 acres designed by Frederick Law Olmsted in the style of his masterpiece, New York's Central Park. George Antheil, one of the 20th century's first avant-garde composers, was a Trenton native. In 1926, his Ballet Mécanique shocked Paris. Progressive Industry was painted by Charles Ward in 1935. It's one of the first New Deal murals made for the old Trenton Post Office, now the United States Courthouse on East State Street. As the capital of New Jersey, Trenton has some spectacular public art. There's The Constructors by George Segal, showing men at work on West State Street. And just down the block, the state's only World War II memorial. But Trenton is also an urban frontier, and among its pioneers are artists whose talents are making the city a more livable place and a destination for the arts. The old Roebling factories are hosting huge art events. The Sage Coalition is focused on blighted neighborhoods. And young companies are using art to help focus on business. Think you know Trenton? Find out as we take a tour of a city that continues to surprise. State of the Arts, going on location with New Jersey's most creative people.
The New Jersey State Council on the Arts, encouraging excellence and public engagement in the arts since 1966, is proud to co-produce State of the Arts with Stockton University, New Jersey's distinctive public university. Additional support is provided by the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation.
What brings people to a city? Music, art, museums, events, history. In other words, arts and culture. In Trenton, the plan is to show people exactly where they can find these things by creating a new arts or creative district, from creek to canal. It's bounded loosely by the D&R Canal to the north and the Assunpink Creek to the south. The creek winds through the Mill Hill neighborhood, and that's where you'll find one of the major players in Trenton's cultural scene, the Mill Hill Playhouse on East Front Street. Passage Theater Company makes its home there, producing full seasons of plays since 1985, focusing on the diversity of human experience. Plays like Little Rock, Trenton Lights, and Song for the Disappeared. Passage Theater also hosts the Trenton Film Festival, showing films you can't see anywhere else. Plays often end with talkbacks about the issues, like this one led by artistic director June Ballinger. She's a longtime resident of Trenton.
What I've come to realize, and I've been here 18 years, 19 years, I've lost count, is that what Trenton and what Passage offer in theater is that the theater is a very safe and comfortable environment to come and sit down and learn about some tough social subjects in a way that is much less threatening than learning about those same things on the street. They love us for our artistry and our high quality of performance, but they have told me that what they really value is the kinds of stories that we tell.
Passage is on the ground in Trenton's neighborhoods. Here they worked with teens who asked what their future in the city holds.
In love, Conjure the energy that created this garden. Conceive of this happening in every corner of Trenton. Create, conjure, conceive.
They worked with their high school drama club and with David Lee White, a playwright and longtime member of Passage Theater.
I don't know. It's a fairly big pothole.
I'm going to need you to measure it.
Are you kidding?
And hurry, I'm about to leave for vacation.
Okay, hold on.
When David actually gave me, or us, the topic of let's talk about Trenton, let's do a play about the things that go on in Trenton, it kind of was like stillness in the room, like don't really want to talk about Trenton. But then everyone was like, okay, I got this about Trenton, we have this and this and this, and that's how we came up with all of the various scenes in the play.
And finally, in Act 3, we wonder, if fixing the city takes longer than you planned, do you stick to the guns or do you give up and move on?
I think that the general impression of Trenton is that we have these schools that are basically giant concrete buildings where we keep incorrigibles in and do our best to keep them from running around in the streets, and that really is not the reality. And the fact of the matter is that I have not worked with any kids in Trenton Central High that I have not thought had a lot of potential. I've met with some that had some issues. You know, maybe they have trouble showing up on time. Maybe they have, parents that don't come to the performances or don't pick them up, or, stuff that, can kind of bring you down. But all of them have challenged themselves in some way to do things, that I think are pretty extraordinary.
You say, I'm sorry, that's so sad. Then you move on. But that's not what my city needs. That's not what I need.
David made a statement about no one had a political objective in the play, so it was kind of like how we felt. So some was negative and then some was positive, but it was all like an expression.
Because I'm from the north side, where everybody knows that Father Rocco's was a place to dip your feet. And does anyone remember Fine Fair? I love my city. It's full of warm, talented individuals. I have so much hope for Trenton. And they say that love never forgets home. Well, Trenton is where my heart is. I am home.
We owe the city a lot of respect for giving us what it has given us. We owe the city a lot because it has given us a lot.
The Gandhi Garden on East Hanover Street is also part of Trenton's Creative District, one of the places where things are happening on the grassroots level in the city. The SAGE Coalition started the transformation here years ago with the mission of civic engagement through art.
That was the first mural of its kind on this block, and even then I knew this block was something that just no one took the time to really engage the community here, and there is a community here.
Communities all over Trenton are reinventing themselves. On South Clinton Avenue, workers in the old Roebling factories once made wire rope for some of America's most famous bridges, including the Brooklyn Bridge and the Golden Gate. Now, art events transform the vast industrial spaces. The Trenton Punk Rock Flea Market happens 3 times each year.
The whole thing that we kind of stick to is, the DIY ethic, the do-it-yourself ethic. That's essentially what the Trenton Punk Rock Flea Market is built upon. We work with crafters and makers and artists who are making things with their hands. They're doing it themselves. You will not find mass-produced things here. You will not find mass-produced jewelry or mass-produced clothing. You'll find plenty of clothing, but it'll all be hand silkscreen. You'll find plenty of jewelry, but it'll be made by hand. You'll find plenty of artwork for your walls, but it'll all be made by hand by the artist. You can actually buy it from that artist. So, we don't have a whole lot of criteria here for the Punk Rock Flea Market, but the one thing that we stick with every single time is that you have to be a crafter, a maker, an artist, and you have to be making it yourself.
The flea market is big, but the biggest event at the Wireworks building takes place every year on the 3rd weekend in June. Over 30,000 people from New Jersey, Philadelphia, Bucks County, and beyond converge for a nonstop 24 hours of art, music, and food during Art All Night.
It's literally for 24 hours. It started at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon and goes straight through for 24 hours to 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon.
One of the highlights of Art All Night has been the Iron Pour.
We are at the Iron Pour, which is being hosted by Abominage International. We're an artist collective. So it's a group of artists who get together and make iron pours happen.
We take any genre of art, be it sculpture, photography, painting, any type, and also any level of art. I mean, if a young kid wants to draw a picture on a piece of paper or on a paper plate, we'll hang it, and we'll also hang it right next to a top professional's piece, so, which is really great. People always ask me, do you really have people coming through at all hours of the night? And I never forget, it was about 2 years ago, I happened to be strolling the floor at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was an elderly couple in their 80s, holding hands, walking through, and it just took me by surprise. So I walked up to them and I asked them, what brought them out at this time of night? And they said they were sitting home, they happened to wake up and said, you know what, let's take a run over.
People come out of their boxes, and that only art can really do that. And for Trenton to do that is just a beautiful thing.
Art All Night is presented by Artworks, Trenton's downtown visual arts center. In a spin-off, Artworks also presents Art All Day.
Art All Night is an event that you get a ton of people to one site in Trenton for a big art party. And Art All Day is where you get people into Trenton and then you send them out into the city as a whole to see everything that's going on throughout the community.
Since 2012, Art All Day, Trenton's citywide open studio tour and all-around arts festival, has illuminated the cultural life of New Jersey's capital city. It's organized by Artworks, a visual arts center and community hub located about a block away from City Hall.
It's a chance to really connect with other people, see what other folks are doing. But also, I think people will seek out an event if you kind of, tie it up in a bow. And that's sort of what we're doing in a lot of ways. You got trolley rides, you make it really easy. And people, you begin to have people maybe start to say, I can collect, I can afford to buy a piece of art. And boy, it's kind of exciting to buy it from a person I met.
Exploring Trenton during Art All Day, you might wander into the living room of world-famous photographer John Nahr and have a conversation about being a British spy in World War II, or taking Andy Warhol's favorite portrait. And then hop a trolley to the site of an Art All Day tradition, in which a Trenton graffiti artist gets a whole car to paint.
I really enjoy that because it was like I really had pretty much full creative reign, I just kind of just went with what I wanted to do. So it's kind of like a lot of abstract patterning and stuff. That's one of the things that I'm really focusing on in my fine art work now. It was really fun.
Next stop, the Trenton Area Soup Kitchen, right next to Capital City Farm, a new 2-acre urban farm.
Art All Day is the day that we kind of stop being a soup kitchen for a day and we become an art gallery and we show off all the artistic talent of the people who use our services. So all the art on the walls is done by a group that's called the Trenton Community A-Team.
The A-Team is one of Trenton's most successful art exports. They've been, I would say, wildly popular locally. I bought A-Team art. It's really seductive stuff. It's beautiful creativity.
We open our doors, we set up our dining room so that it is now a concert hall and / art gallery, and we'll play the music and we'll read our poetry for anyone who comes to Art All Day.
For Galleria Casa Cultura, the first Latino art space in Trenton, Art All Day was also opening day. We returned a week later to speak with two of the founders.
I think we found our home in Trenton. We are from Trenton. We're part of the community, we're civically involved, we volunteer, we do kind of stuff. So it felt right, making Trenton our home base.
I mean, we come from countries from all over the world, and we just come here to work, and that's kind of what we see. But it's always, family's always first for our Latino, and it's our roots are like really strong. Like nobody's ever gonna say I am not Latino. Somebody who is truly a Latino would never not express it and not want it to be shown. And you see that in daily life here in the city.
We're very proud of our culture and our identity. So Casa Cultura was a project that is intended to people to celebrate that, to be able to celebrate their culture, their arts, you know, and bring together community.
Our last stop on Art All Day was Lauren Otis's own studio, where a trolley full of visitors had just arrived.
Here we go. That's cool. Next side.
It's only been a few years that we've been at the Cass Street studio, but we love it there. And yeah, we're looking forward to more artists kind of popping up with studio spaces in and around us and in Trenton. You know, Trenton it's a great scene and a great incubator for artists at this point. You know, you can kind of hatch an idea for art and you can execute it, and that's sort of fun about Trenton now.
There's a lot of really tucked away little spaces in this city that are doing really cool stuff. And I think that it's neat for us all to kind of join together and be open the same day to really encourage folks to come in and see what we're offering, because there's a lot of really cool stuff that you're not going to know about the city until you come out and see it.
Trenton is on the Delaware River, midway between New York and Philadelphia, and reasonably priced. As in so many other cities, artists see the possibilities first, and they've been moving to Trenton for years. British-born photographer John Narr, for example, spent most of his career in New York before moving to the Mill Hill section of Trenton.
I bought this house. I figured I'm under an hour to Philadelphia, New York, an hour and 15 minutes, 6-minute walk to the train station. I don't have a car, don't want a car. And a lovely community. All the space in the world I didn't have. My apartment in New York was about as big as this room.
Painter Mel Leipzig has lived in Trenton for more than 50 years and has work at the Whitney Museum and the White House.
There are lots of artists, and now there's a different group now that has to be considered. Like there are a lot of graffiti artists who are terrific, unbelievable. I would say that they're leading what would be called the new generation.
On the edge of town, TerraCycle, a highly successful international recycling company, is constantly inviting graffiti artists to paint their headquarters. And TerraCycle's design team is always coming up with new ways for people to upcycle waste. The new director of the New Jersey State Museum is a longtime fan of local art and artists, and in her previous role as curator, Margaret O'Reilly featured the works of many.
I've been at the museum over 26 years now, and I've seen it ebb and flow. You know, it's better, it's worse, but now it seems to be sustained. It seems to be a lot of younger people moving in, and I think there's an energy there. I think they don't have the baggage, so I think they're coming with really fresh ideas. I think the Sage Coalition wants to support the community, so they're doing great things. So I think there are great arts communities here, and they're working together. I think for the first time, they really seem to be united. And folks like Will Casso-Condry and Leon Rainbow, they're really vital to that community and building relationships through the arts.
Sage Coalition is a 501c3 nonprofit. We do inner city beautification projects. So we go into very hard-hit neighborhoods that are depressed socially, economically, spiritually. And we do art projects. We put artwork on the abandoned buildings. We do community gardens. We all have to work together to make this town better, you know? And art is the best way to do that because it holds no prejudice.
Artists are joining hundreds of other people to create a more livable Trenton. The effort to create an arts district is well underway, led by Isles, a nonprofit community development organization with Passage Theater Company. Julia Taylor is spearheading the plan called the creative district from creek to canal.
This isn't the first time there's been arts planning in the city, but I think it's the first time that the moment has been ripe for this kind of thing to actually happen. Because we have enough support, there's enough governmental support, we're working very closely with the city on its master plan so that this feeds into that, so the Arts District can become one of the first neighborhood plans adopted under the master plan. And I think that there's some financing out there we can use to get things going quickly. Part of this is just about capitalizing on what's already going on, supporting the people who are already here doing great work. The time is right now. Come to East State Street in 5 years, it's going to look very different. Come to East Hanover Street in 5 years, it's going to look very different. I think we're going to see more businesses, we're going to see more restaurants, more bars, more 24/7 activity, more eyes on the street. There are already a number of redevelopment projects going on in the Old Trenton neighborhood that are going to be catalytic for what we've been talking about in the Arts District plan. So people will see change quickly.
So we're looking at Stockton Street Apartments, which is a new rehab project that is repopulating buildings that were abandoned for about a decade.
And the more we can build ambassadors who say, you know, I went to Trenton and I went to Art All Day, or I went to the Punk Rock Flea Market, and it was wonderful. And then I went to Trenton Social and had a beer, and it was wonderful. You should try it. I mean, I think that we just need a little more of that momentum to get people coming back.
In the summertime, concerts are taking place on the riverfront next to the War Memorial. Trenton native Edwin LeBron returned to his hometown with his popular salsa band. Heavy thunderstorms forced the concert into the War Memorial Ballroom, but that did not dampen the enthusiasm.
As we say in Latin culture, I'm playing some salsa music. Salsa de la buena, which is good salsa music that everyone enjoys, positive music that everyone loves to listen to and dance to. And not only Spanish culture, but English culture as well. Everyone, this is music for everyone to enjoy.
Are you enjoying this dynamic music? It sounds real good to me. I saw folks getting their little going on, right? It's a good time tonight.
The beautifully restored War Memorial is also home to a new symphony for the city. The New Jersey Capitol Philharmonic's music director, Dan Spalding, has conducted all over the world. He moved to Trenton's Mill Hill neighborhood to be in the heart of the city.
We've become more involved in what's going on in Trenton. Arts All Night. We went to that, and we thought that was really fun thing to do. The Passage Theater is only two blocks away, and the plays at Passage Theater are just as good as anywhere. And just a couple of blocks away is the War Memorial. You can walk over to the rehearsal, walk to the concert. It couldn't be a better situation. We have an incredible venue, the War Memorial Patriots Theater, which has incredible acoustics that is just as good as any theater anywhere. A symphony orchestra is one of the arts institutions that any major metropolitan area needs to have.
I've been in Trenton 28 years. As a partner in an architecture firm, one of the things I see is sort of what kind of projects are we doing in Trenton? And we're doing a lot of projects in Trenton right now. The Roebling project, the Roebling Center and Roebling Lofts project, I think is maybe most indicative of how Trenton is changing and how it's going to be changing, because that's really intended to serve young creative people that already live in Trenton, but also to attract young creative people who want to live in a place like Trenton. So part of what attracts young creative people, or just people in general, to cities, it's partly the architecture, partly access to other places, but a lot of it is a culture and arts scene that's happening. So Trenton has a lot of that going on. I feel like there's almost been kind of like a mini arts explosion in Trenton, which is really great.
When you start to incorporate people from a creative center, everything else is irrelevant. You know, where you're from, how you grew up, how much money you have. It's like, we're all in this together. We all have to work together to make this town better.
I love Trenton. I think it's hard scrabble. I think you have to have moxie to live here, to work here. It's a company town, the company is government. But I think the arts community is trying to cut through all of that and bring the city some life.
That's it for this special edition of State of the Arts. Check out more stories about the arts in New Jersey on our website, and let us know if you have any story ideas. And tag us on Instagram with your favorite Trenton art photos and use the hashtag TrentonArts. Thanks for watching.
The New Jersey State Council on the Arts, encouraging excellence and public engagement in the arts since 1966, is proud to co-produce State of the Arts with Stockton University, New Jersey's distinctive public university.